brings the vision, the strategy, the plan. JJ's resilience forged in the sand. Together they rise to sharpen the mind, teaching the hustle, the leader's grind. Leadership Live, where the truth unfolds. Strengthen the stories, the wisdom they hold. From the grind to the grit, where leaders survive. It's Chris and JJ on Leadership Live.
Welcome to Leadership Live with Chris and JJ, the show where we break down actionable leadership principles you can apply in real time. I'm JJ Hardy.
Intro cut short.
I don't know what was going on with the intro. I'll have to edit that for the podcast.
It's all good. But that's okay.
Yeah, do you hear the echo?
Live now. So good morning, JJ.
Good morning. How you doing, Chris?
I'm great. How are you? Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay. You know what? Let me see if I can figure out what the heck is going on here. I think I fixed it.
This is the fun of doing a live show.
It is. Okay. I think I fixed it. It was open in another tab that was hiding in the background. So either way, welcome to another episode of Leadership Live, keyword live. And today we're going to talk about something that you all voted on. And that is, this is going to be part one of a series, being true to yourself as a leader. And I think this is going to be great. It's not talked about nearly as often as you would think, but when you take that leadership position, you do have to distance yourself from your people, but that doesn't mean you need to forget who you are. And we're going to go into that. What do you think?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And you and I took a different approach this time with trying to figure out like what's our next series going to be. You know, we decided that we were going to do a poll, and the results, you and I launched the same poll on our respective LinkedIn profiles, same day, lasted for 7 days. And the outcome was that people voted for the topic of staying true to yourself. You were saying earlier that for you, that was the one choice that started to get the most activity, like right off the bat. And for me, it was the one that across all four choices came in number one. So when we added up all the votes, this was the topic that came in at the top. This is what people really seem to want us to talk about. And I'm really happy that we took this approach because we're appealing to what people who watch and listen to this show want to hear. So I'm really excited about it.
Well, we talk about it all the time where we don't necessarily want to talk about what we want to talk about. We want to talk about what you want to hear, because at the end of the day, this is actionable leadership advice for you to take immediately. So if we're not talking about the things that you're struggling with, then we're not really being a benefit to you. So, this one is kind of talking about, for episode one, it's discussing the kind of self-awareness part of having, of being aware of who you are as a leader and kind of staying true to yourself. And what kind of hits home with me for that is we talk about self-awareness a lot when it comes to emotional intelligence. And really this is still, it still applies when you're trying to stay true to yourself, because, a lot of times people think they have to change who they are when they become a leader because now they need to be this person that other people look up to. Well, you might have to adopt some qualities if you don't already have them. But the fact of the matter is, when you make that transition from execution level employee to supervisor, manager, I've even worked with people who got promoted straight to a director position. But, when you make that transition, it's because somebody saw something in you. And if that person that put you in that position, if they saw something in you, then that means you're already starting off on the right track. And why would you have to change your overall identity when you take that leadership position when you're already that person that people want to lead in that position?
Mhm.
And I think that's a crucial part to understanding, that self-awareness portion, because if you can take who you are and adapt yourself into that person, that now, I'm not just working doing the things that I have to do every day for me because I'm this execution level guy. Now my mindset needs to shift to, it's a we thing. Everything that happens on the team, it's a we. I need to learn what everybody else does now, and I need to help people out along the way. If you can do that, but keep to who you are, that's probably the most important piece to that self awareness.
I would agree with that. And what I'll also say is that you said that you're shifting to this we mentality, but I would be willing to bet that once when someone has gotten promoted into that leadership role, they've already been demonstrating that we mentality, and that was part of the decision making of whoever elevated them into that leadership role. They're looking at you and saying, this person isn't just out for themselves. They want to see the team succeed. They want to see the organization succeed. It is those words that they probably use on a regular basis. We've got to do this. We've got to be better. We just kick butt. Like, so I think that happens, but it kind of gets to your point where being self-aware is so important, because a lot of people, I think, had this misunderstanding that you need to morph as a leader into what people expect of you or what the organization expects, and you should be changing yourself, when there are some things, right, that for you to grow as a leader, you're going to have to develop, right? You're going to have to grow as an individual. But there are also reasons that you were chosen to become that leader because of who you are. So staying true to yourself and being authentic and having that self-awareness, it is something that, number one, it got you there even if you don't realize it, but it's important to maintain it so that I guess what I'm trying to say is people are going to get what they thought they were buying when your performance as a leader is happening, and they're going to say, okay, that's why we promoted JJ,
Yep.
because he exhibits these things. So, but being self-aware is really important in that case, because you've got to walk a fine line of, where do I change in order to be more effective, and where do I hold firm and say, no, this is me, this is who I am, and this isn't going to change about me.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing that people need to, I guess, keep in mind when they take that position is the mindset shift is probably the most important part. I mean, it's not, you were probably already leading in your role. We've already talked about how uh, you could be that frontline employee, but everyone still comes to you for help because you are showing the qualities that they look up to, and they're going to come to you anyway. But now that you're in that seat where, you know your accountability level is obviously different. You don't, you're not the peer anymore. You're sitting in the seat where now you're accountable for all the work that gets done. Your seat in on the team, it changes.
Mhm.
So all that doesn't mean that, all of a sudden now all of this weight is on your shoulders. Now you just need to learn some different things. And I think the biggest quality that needs to change is that you're not doing the work. You still are. You still need to understand how to do what you were doing before, but now you need to understand your current place on the team as the leader, and you need to learn where everyone's role fits and get to know them in a different way, the people on your team, instead of going out and smoking and joking outside at the smoke pit and talking about how crazy things are at work and stuff like that. That you got to separate yourself from that part.
Oh yeah.
And go into, I guess the best way to say it is a task organization mindset. And that is what is, all these people, I've been joking around with them for years. I've been helping them with what they do. They've been helping me with what I do. But what are they actually good at? What is Joe Snuffy good at? What is Jane good at? Go through and start identifying those different traits for different people, and not necessarily changing the way that you 100% interact with everybody all the time. Distance yourself from the complaining, distance yourself from all the other crap that was going on that you would do it as an execution level guy. That's the really the personality shift that might have to adjust a little bit, but otherwise you're just changing your position on the team to the one that has to worry about, where everybody else fits, and move forward that way. It's not an identity crisis, not necessarily. Don't turn it into that. Turn it into, my role on the team has changed.
Right.
And then move forward that way.
But the one thing I would say is that this is where it can get complicated for some people. You'd mentioned about, hey, you used to like joke around with these people and now you're in a different position. That doesn't mean that you can't joke around with these people.
No, not at all.
It means that the interaction is a little different, right? The jokes are probably different, but for me, like I'll use myself as an example here. I like to be lighthearted. I like to joke, and I like to make people laugh. I love to laugh. Like I need to laugh at least 3 times a day. And
yeah,
I'll often say, like, I'll crack a joke sometimes, right? As something to like break the tension, or we're in a certain situation and like I'll make a joke about how we got there. And then until people have gotten to know me, I'll say, hey, look, you know what? There are 2 things that you can do in a case like this. You could joke, you could laugh, or you could cry. And I would much rather laugh. So, let's sometimes a joke or just that's being yourself, right? That's just who I am. Like I have that kind of sense of humor where I can see what's funny about something that other people might find like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. All right, well, you know what? If we kind of lighten it a little bit, it's easier to see a path forward. You don't get stuck into this like victim mentality of, oh, we're stuck in this rut. But that comes back to the authenticity piece. You still have to be yourself. You're going to change it up a little bit, right? And if you got promoted, but you used to every Friday go out with your coworkers to the bar and you're, throwing a few back, it doesn't mean that you can't do that on occasion. Maybe you're not going every Friday. And when you do go, you're limiting yourself and then you're going to dip out. So you're not partying all Friday night with your former coworkers, now the people that report to you, but you're still showing up, right? You're still maintaining those relationships. You're still keeping your jokes going, and it may not be as frequent because now you're not working shoulder to shoulder with those people. But that's where it's important to maintain that authenticity of like, look, I can't lose myself in order to be in this leadership role. That will go a long way with the people that you're leading. The people that you last week were peers with, and now this week you've stepped into a new role because you've been promoted. I can't tell you how many times, and I'm sure you've seen the same thing, JJ, where people will say, oh, as soon as Joe Snuffy got promoted, he turned into a totally different person. And now respect goes out the window. And now the jokes are about Joe Snuffy, who used to be my friend and peer, but he turned into a different person once he got a little bit of authority and it went to his head. this is where you have to be self-aware
Yeah.
and say, look, I'm still the same person. Those people are still my friends. I can't be the same way, but I'm not going to change. Like, I don't go from being Homer Simpson to Mr. Burns just because I got a little bit of authority.
Don't be Mr. Burns.
Right.
There's another part to that. There's another part to that though. There's the ego part of it. And when you get promoted, I mentioned earlier the weight on your shoulders. Don't let that weight get to you. The ego wants to keep you in control, and that might turn you a little bit into Mr. Burns, and it might completely detach you from your team because of all the new things that you have to worry about. And that's really not okay.
No.
The ego makes you selfish in a way, but not intentionally. When you are the type of leader who already goes out there and is trying to do your best, not just for you, but to make sure you're doing the right thing in the eyes of everyone else, then that ego can hit you in a different way. And that's that you gotta feel like now that all of these people are working for you, that you got to control everything that's happening with every single one of them. Oh my gosh, the stats are down. Oh, what I got to do this and this and this. And so you'll sit there and you'll play around with the numbers, and then you'll pop out of the office every once in a while, and you'll be a jerk, and then you'll pop back into the office, and then you'll make your phone calls. And I've seen that happen so much. So you gotta stay this is a part of self-awareness. You gotta stay who you are. Don't give into that. Nothing. You have those things that you have to answer to. True enough. But you're not going to know what's actually going on with the team if you're not out there with them, interacting with them, and being just your regular self. They're not going to open up to you if you're not. They're not going to want to talk to you if you're trying to control their actions all the time. Just stay that same person that got promoted to that position. Be that helper, be the one that supports them in their role, not the one that wants to control it because now you have to answer to things. That is the biggest thing that hits most brand new managers and supervisors and whatever your position is now, because they feel like now that everything that's on their team, they have to control. You don't have to control it. You just have to figure out how to, I don't really know another way to say it, but to lead it. And the only way you lead it is to keep those relationships, know what they're doing, understand what they're good at, what they're not, help them where they need it, and stay a part of the team. Because now your role is not to control everything. Your role is to be an ultimate support for everybody. You're a support for the people that are underneath your charge. You're in support of the peers, which now you guys have a mission that support each other, and you're also in support of that person that you work for, because you need to balance what's going on with the bigger picture and kind of make sure that everything is happening within that. And that's not by controlling it. That is by supporting it, nurturing it. Let's put it this way. If you plant a seed in the ground, do you water it so it has what it needs? Or
if you want it to grow.
Or do you pull the dirt away from it every once in a while and yank the sprout up to make it grow? Well, you don't do that. There's really, when you think of it that way, it breaks it down to the most simple part of nurturing a team, and that is that you give them what they need so that that team can continue to do what they got to do and grow. What they have to do, they're going to do what they got to do as long as they're trained properly, and you're giving them support. You can't yank the tasks out of your team, and you can't just be a part of everything all the time. You got to separate yourself from that. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
But you know what else too? And this comes back to the self-awareness piece. But when you step into that management role, that leadership role, at some point, right, I'm assuming that when you were with the peers that you're now leading, there was a manager above you. And for whatever reason, right, they got promoted, maybe they retired, but there was a vacancy that you now fill. So it gives you clarity on, oh, all these things that Joe Snuffy used to ask us. He used to ask us questions about these things, but I never really knew why he was asking us these questions. He would talk about X, Y, and Z. Maybe he wasn't good at communicating what that X, Y, and Z was. But now what you need to do is connect those dots and say, oh, I remember him asking us about this, talking about this, harping on this. And you've got to keep putting yourself back in your former shoes of when I was on the front line and hearing this from the person that I'm in now in the position of. How can I translate that better to my former peers so that they have a better understanding of why I'm asking these questions, why I'm talking about these things? So that's also part of the awareness piece is you now have a new level of visibility and you've got to figure out, hey, we used to complain about this stuff when I was on the front lines. How can I communicate it to those people so that they're not complaining, but more so they're understanding and now they're moving in the same direction in order to achieve that goal or be more efficient, whatever it is. So you've got to blend that past experience with the new stuff that you're learning because that helps the transition, number one, for yourself, but also it helps the team that you just now elevated into a leadership position of.
I like what you said there. I was thinking, a bigger picture there. When you look at it from the lens that you just put on that, this new camera that I have does some weird things. Anyway,
Yeah, it's
when you look at it through the lens, when you look at it through the lens of what you just got done saying, handling that management position is no different than the way you handled that execution level employee position. I
right.
mean, now you're intentionally having conversations with your former peers more often because it's required, not just who you got along with or whatever the case may be, or who needed the most support all the time. Now you have to build a different relationship with everyone, but you're still going to have to ask questions of your peers, which your peers might be a different group, but they're still your peers. And
Mhm.
and guess what? They're going through the same struggles that you're starting to go through. And when you struggle, there's nothing wrong with doing what you did when you were at the other position you were in, and that's going up higher to your new boss and saying, I don't really know how to handle these things. Is there any way that we can have a conversation about this so that I have more clarity?
Yeah.
And that's going to make you more of an authority. So, don't lose your identity. You're the same person. Marshall Goldsmith wrote the book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There,
Mhm.
not because you have to change who you are, but it's just because you might have to make some minor tweaks in your approach and learn new things about the new thing that you're doing so that you can be more successful in that new role. But different conversations, same process, different people, same process. Don't have to lose yourself. You're
Mhm.
still who you are. You just don't need to be in control, and you don't need to worry as much as a lot of these new managers do. Just go out there and be you and learn and grow with the rest of everybody else who, by the way, they may look like they have it all together because they've been doing it for a while. But here's the secret. They don't. They do not have their shit together at all. They just don't.
Yeah.
And they're just going through the motions, trying to make sure they're doing their best, which is what you're now doing in your new position. Give yourself some grace and learn from those people who, by the way, probably sucked at it when they first started too. And they learned some of these lessons. Ask them what they did.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. You know, this series is going to be our longest series.
Yes.
Um, we've in the past we've limited our series to like, you know, 3, 4 topics. But this one, because this was voted on by the people that watch and listen to this show, we're going to go a lot more in depth. So,
Yeah.
what I'm thinking here, JJ, we've got 4 minutes left, and I think this would be a good time to like kind of give a preview, right? What are the topics for this series going to look like? What are we going to be talking about in terms of, hey, staying true to yourself as a leader? There's a lot to unpack there. So, I think
Yeah.
we take the next few minutes and just kind of walk through what we've laid out as what those episodes are going to be.
Yeah. So to start off with, we did self-awareness today, and we're probably now keep in mind as we go through these topics, we're probably going to be going over a lot of the same similar things because really staying who you are is and the basics is what we went over today. But there's more. Like next week we're going to talk or next not next week, next episode we're going to talk about leading without pretending. And I mean, I think that one speaks for itself. We're going to go over in the next episode after that, leading with your core values.
Hmm.
Then we're going to go through. Ooh, this is a good one. Setting boundaries.
Yep.
Because even though you can do things the way you've been doing it, there are going to be times where you have to set boundaries because you can't just accept everything that comes down the pipeline. Sometimes you got to set a firm boundary, not only with the people up here, but also with your employees and your peers. Because once you get good at what you do, and you will, they're gonna want you to do everything. Same thing as when you were down at the bottom.
Yep.
Now this one is from Comparison to Confidence, and this one talks about why you shouldn't compare what you do to other people. You should be learning from them, not comparing yourself to them, because your journey is not the same as theirs. And let's see, when leadership gets lonely, you're not always going to be popular.
That's right. You're going to make some tough decisions that.
Yeah, you're not always going to be popular. We've actually had some conversations about that in the last couple months, Chris, haven't we? Yeah,
that's right.
Yep. And the next one is leading through integrity, and I think we'll leave it at that for now. Okay. But this one's going to be 10 episodes. I'll just read them off. I'm not going to go into your leadership identity. Don't lose yourself in your role, balancing influence and identity, and what to do when you realize you've drifted. Oh, I like that one, because guess what? When you lead yourself and your people down the wrong direction, you can always put them back on track with a simple conversation or just a pivot in what you're doing.
That's right.
So that we're going to be ending that one on a really, really good note. But so it's going to be 10 episodes. And so this is going to last us. Oh my gosh. We do 2 a month, usually, sometimes 3, depending on how long the month is. But this is going to last us a while. So we're going to talk a lot this year about not losing your identity as a leader.
Yes.
Being true to yourself.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to it. Yep.
And so to be clear, the next episode, we are going to be talking about leading without pretending.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking forward to that. And what are your closing comments now that we're kind of at the end there, Chris?
Yeah. This is something that I hope we're able to help people get past, because I've seen it in my own leadership journey where you want to change because you feel like you have to change. But at the end of the day, it's who you are that kind of brought you to the dance in the first place. So you can't change too much. Otherwise, you're really not doing yourself or your organization any favors. So this is going to be a great set of episodes that I think any person in any leadership role, whether you're a brand new leader or you're a seasoned executive, we're going to have some good stuff that can have some takeaways that I think everybody will enjoy and get something from.
I agree. And just be who you are and make sure if you watch this episode and it resonates with you, that not only do you do the normal things like liking it and subscribing to it on YouTube and all that other fun stuff, because we say that all the time. By the way, go do those things. That's important to expand our reach and to make this more important and relevant for everybody. It has to get out there. But, ask questions. Make sure that you're telling us, you're giving us feedback on what you want to know more about and what you're struggling with. And don't if you need to talk to one of us about this stuff, you can do that too. Most of these platforms you can send a DM.
Yeah.
And if you feel the need to talk to Chris, I'm pretty sure I could forward that information over. I mean, I don't think he's opposed to having a conversation about something if you'd rather talk to him. But don't go through this leadership journey alone, especially when it comes to staying true to who you are. And before we get off the live stream here, don't forget to go buy Speak Up, Show Up, Lead, my book. It's my story of grit, growth, and leadership from the ground up. And it's what I've learned throughout my life through all the craziness that's gone on. And I've been informed by a couple people that it takes anywhere between 2 and 4 hours to read the whole thing. So don't be intimidated by it. Buy it. Have a good read. And that's it. Thank you all for coming in here. We've had actually a pretty good turnout, and don't be afraid to interact. We like to answer questions on the spot too. And we will see you all in a couple of weeks.
See you then.